speaking with you. How's everything going?
Um, it's been a lot. Just to give you a little backstory on me, I'm just graduated college.
Oh,
I
where'd you
was
graduate from?
I was a senior at Duke University in Durham, North Carolina.
Oh,
And yeah, so there was kind of a large transition when COVID hit. We just went on spring break. Um, and we were fortunate because we actually all live in off campus housing to come back to Durham. And so we've been here since March. My friends just left. I moved into a new apartment, um,
cool.
launched the website, then everything with the world went on, and just kind of going day by day with company stuff, with personal things, adjusting to work from home, which isn't as hard for me because that's a little bit of the startup life. um
Yeah.
but yeah, and what about you?
So actually, I just graduated from Rider, class of 2020 as well. I just
Okay.
moved back home after
Okay.
graduating, so I'm
And
on the same boat as you.
where's home?
Fort Lee, New Jersey.
Okay.
So yeah, Rider's in New Jersey, just South Jersey. I'm actually starting a business right now for
Oh.
customized keychains. It's really small. Yeah,
Oh,
so
website or anything?
not yet. I'm just on Instagram as of right now.
And what's your Instagram?
Self, like myself, self underscore safe haven.
Safe haven.
Mhm.
Awesome. I love keychains.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm also the new editorial intern for Emerald as of right now since the whole pandemic. Just pretty much just about all I could do while I was
Yeah.
looking for an actual job.
Yeah, and can you tell me a little bit about Emerald Media Group? I looked it up, but
So Emerald Media Group is cannabis media magazine. So the founder Christina actually had an incident her senior year of college, her second semester, where she was actually arrested with a cannabis charge for about 8 hours. When realistically she didn't need to be, so she just wanted to use the platform to pretty much just spread awareness with law and the cannabis community and just like all allies of the cannabis community. Right now, I'm actually doing a podcast project with a lot of people that have been wrongfully convicted, involved with cannabis. We also just like to advertise like companies, cannabis companies. She's
yeah,
actually from California, so
yeah.
that really coincides with each
Mhm.
other. So yeah, that's pretty much like Emerald Media Group, just like all positive within the cannabis community and being heard.
That is awesome.
So since you're just starting up the brand, what would you say was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah. So my sophomore year of college, um, I moved in with a roommate who was from Colorado, and we used to go to these parties, and we would roll ourselves joints. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with doob tubes, but they're a plastic, clear, multicolored, essentially science test tube. Um, and they often said derogatory terms and phrases on them, but it was really like the only thing that we could use to transport our joint from home to the party without like damaging it. And sometimes we would roll two and we would shove them in this test tube and we'd get to the party and like we would go out to smoke. And it's funny, we would always like attract all these people who were like, oh my God, I would love to smoke at a party, but like I didn't bring anything. Can I join you? And we'd be like, yeah, we brought two, like, join us. We were like two females just like standing outside, like smoking a joint, and people were always kind of taken back by it, but, like, really intrigued and always wanted to join, which was great, but, like, the physical tube that we would carry it in, we would have to, like, turn it over and, like, pound it on our hand because we had shoved 2 joints in there. It didn't fit 1, it didn't fit 2, it fit, like, 1.5, and it was truly just a repurposed tube. And, that happened a few times, and we would just chuck them at the end of the party because they were, like, $3, they were plastic, and we were like, "The next time we need one, we'll just go buy one." Um, and so I came home at the end of my sophomore year and I was talking to, so I'm from Chicago, and Chicago has had medical marijuana since 2016 or 17. And then they just legalized recreational use at January of 2020. But I came home and I was at a good friend's house, and her dad was talking to me, and he was like, "Yeah, I put my joints in these plastic test tubes, and they're so ugly and embarrassing, and it's not like my family doesn't know, but like I refuse to keep that in my bedside or in the kitchen." And so he would plant them in the garden, amongst his garden, because he was like, I would just grab a lighter and go outside and just like fish it out of the garden and smoke my joint and like and be done with it. And I was like, that's so interesting. Like, I know exactly what you use. I absolutely hate them because they're just not stylish, and I'm like a very stylish and like,
Yeah.
you know, prideful person. And I was like, you're an older man who's established and in the working industry, and I'm a young college female student. And I was just kind of like, there's got to be something, better for me and you. So I went home and I went on this like, deep dive, which like really ended pretty quickly. And I was like, wow, there's really nothing out there. And so, the next step was talking to my parents, which for a lot of people probably seems like um scary or like not a move they would take. But my mom came from marketing and advertisement, and my dad actually he has an odd background. He's a food photographer. So if you know
Hmm.
like Weber grills or anything, like all those cookbooks are him, and so it is not a normal job. My
Mhm.
dad has always been his own boss, and my parents always, the thing that they push was like doing the thing you love or just finding something that you want to do. So when I had this idea, there was no like, oh, I can't do it. It was like, at least I'm going to try. So I remember it was probably like 4 or 5 days after coming back from my sophomore year of college, and we were having dinner, and I just kind of explained this problem that I had at school, and then explained this father that they've known for 21 years as well. So it was like, oh, this is legitimate if he has this problem too. And my dad and I, build a ton of stuff. And so we went out, we found a wheelchair in the alley,
Mhm.
and he has some welding stuff. And we did a little like snooping through our cabinets in our house, and we found a travel size shampoo bottle, and we essentially cut it all up. And within a week, we had a legitimate working prototype on what we wanted to create, which was going to be this joint holder to keep your joints safe, but to also, take pride in what you were carrying. Because it was sophisticated and it was discreet and it
Yeah.
didn't show so blatantly like I am carrying weed. And like the one thing you don't want to do with weed, even if you're in a legal state. Um, and so yeah, it just came from this party idea, and it came from a personal problem, and then relating it to someone who wasn't similar to me, but was, had articulated the exact same problem that I had had. And then it was kind of just like, I'm gonna jump in and see, where this takes me.
That's cool, because I was, like, looking at it, I was like, "Wow, this, like, really looks like chapstick." Like,
Yeah,
I was thinking, because 'cause I'm like, you're talking about, like, parties and stuff, and I was just like,
yeah,
"Wow," like, I just, like, put my blunt back, like, in the wrapper pack, like, the
yeah,
plastic, and
yep.
then throw it in my purse, but I'm like, even then, that's so obvious, and, like,
So
how many times has
obvious.
it broken?
Yep, and it smells, and, like, you just shouldn't r I mean, it's not even risk, but I guess what I like to say is, like, in so many other areas of our life, we love to, like, accessorize our things and, like,
Yeah.
we take pride in our choice, and, like, the thing that I fall back on is, like, our water bottle. Like, I have a matte black
Mm,
water bottle that I'm like, "This is sexy," and, like, it does the same as the person to my right's water bottle does, which is just carry and keep my water cold. But I'm like, "No, this is like this makes sense for what I wanna be carrying."
yeah, yeah.
And so it never made sense to me why that wasn't, brought into this as well.
That makes sense. It was definitely a great idea because they look so good.
Thank you.
They're very discreet, very stylish. I
Yeah,
actually did, another interview with another company. They do geo pipes, and she, like,
okay.
handcrafts, like, pipes, and they just look like something you'd just purchase, like, at Anthropology, and I
Yeah,
think that's, like, the hugest pro to, like, doing this internship is, like, finding all these cool, like, products, like, especially,
yeah,
like, since I smoke, and,
yeah,
like, so many things I could purchase, so many things
yeah,
to share with other people. So
yeah,
definitely really cool, and I'm so
yeah.
happy for you.
Thank you very much.
So you're saying you and your friend, had this idea just from, like, a party. So are you in a partnership, or how does it work for you, like, your position,
Yeah.
like, the
Um,
finances of it?
yeah, that friend is not involved. They never were, and we actually never, like, articulated the problem to each other.
Uh-huh.
I definitely kind of just, like, I mean, throughout sophomore year, I just kind of like internalized it. So like every time I threw it out, I was like, I'm annoyed that I'm throwing this out. Or every time we would put it in there, I'm like, why are we carrying it in this? And so I actually work a lot with my parents. My dad does a lot of the design with me, and then my mom actually does a lot of like the marketing and the branding and the stuff like that. And then I've been fortunate to work with um, two of my best friends, and then a third really good friend at Duke who they do social media, they do copyright, they do the website. Um, and so I am the sole owner and manager of the company. But then I have a team around me that helps. And it's been really nice because, kind of like you're saying, it's like I've involved people that I'm like, I know you smoke. And so when we come to
Yeah,
the table and we talk about, like how we want to brand this, or even when it was still in the designing phase, it wasn't just me as a sole user being like, this is what I want. But it was like bringing in people who like didn't necessarily have product design background or didn't necessarily have like startup background, but I would just be like, what do you want in a product, or what do you like about this, or what don't you like about this? And so much of the creation of the brand and the physical product was just done by like people who smoked a lot or smoked a little, but that was the whole point of the product, was like we wanted to make sure we covered the basis with every type of consumer or someone who will become a consumer and work from that. And so it was a lot of the product design is done simply based on what we actually want as consumers and not about, just what we think smokers want.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, so like technically, is my name the only name that appears on stuff? Yes. But would I say that, everything originates from me, or I don't I mean, I have an amazing team around me, incredibly diverse in gender and sexual orientation and race, because another thing is like I mean, our ideal is to serve everyone, and you cannot do that if you're the team that is creating it does not reflect that. And so, yeah, I have a team around me. I'm the only one with my name on stuff, but like I'm not the only person behind. I'm not the only brains behind this operation.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Um, you got it from a college idea. your friends around you helped you. What would you say is your favorite part of the brand, your company, like besides like being able to use it yourself and like provide it for consumers as well?
Yeah. Um, it, I don't know if this is like an escape of an answer, but I truly really like every part of it because the way we built it, um, just kind of like built layers on itself. So when we really started this, like it was all research and development. I mean, it was figuring out what was already out there. It was figuring out how do we make a product for someone? How can it be multifunctional? How can it be discreet? How can it be diverse? Like it was product driven. And then we, started to think, okay, how do we want to brand this? And down to the colors, I was like, blue is the most universal color between men and women.
Yeah.
Rose gold and gold is a beautiful accent color that like goes well with blue. And then the name, it just like it's like sweet, it's honey, it's a bee, it's and then it's like buzzbox. And so it's like none of our decisions were all of our decisions were incredibly like conscious. And so I don't feel like there's a disconnect between our physical product and who we serve and like our marketing and our word choice or our color choice or our branding. And so when we come together or when we talk to someone about it, you can see them just like understand it all. And that's what you want of a product. Like, I mean, like people will love the physical product, but we want them to buy into the branding and we want them to buy into the story and we want them to understand that it's a lifestyle. And so my favorite part in building this is, I mean, it took me 2 years to get here today, but like we built it so it made sense. And so, I mean, it is a product, it is a brand, it is a company, it is a lifestyle, it is a story. It is not just a product, or it is not just a good name, or it is not just a great logo. I mean, it is like the whole package that you want to buy into. Um, and so it is more than just product and it's a lifestyle. And we want people to like feel like they are a part of the company.
That's cool. You're
Yeah.
saying, it's a lifestyle, you're in a state where it's legal. Um
Illegal, actually.
oh, is it?
I'm from a legal state.
Oh, okay, okay.
North Carolina is an illegal state, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. So what is your standpoint on the legal aspect of cannabis and also tying in with, like, just, like, Black Lives Matter movement right now and, like, all the
Yeah.
incarcerations with cannabis?
Yeah. Um, I mean, the legal cannabis industry is very interesting and has a long history that I don't think a lot of people understand. It was I mean, it was, like, first understood, during slavery with hemp and, was, like, a very versatile crop and was essentially, like, made illegal because of that, because it would, like, rival other crops. And then we had the movies in the '30s, that absolutely just tied Black individuals to being like insane by using cannabis and marijuana. And so, um, but it's been around forever. I mean, don't quote me on the exact like stats of this, but like it was just found in some like archive or some grave from like like hundreds of thousands of years ago. So it's really been a plant that has been used and lived on for a long time. Um, but I think unfortunately some of the reason that it's like those barriers are being broken down is because people are understanding that there's like this green rush, which is similar to the gold rush, that um, it's an easily monetized crop and like industry. Um, and it's unfortunate that this industry is playing out like many others where Um, it is disproportionately affecting Black lives. There are almost identical usage rates between white and Black individuals, despite the fact that Black individuals, most specifically men, are 4+ times as likely to be arrested for it. Um, the actual breakdown of cannabis businesses is over 80% white and only 4.3% Black. Um, and so it's just neglecting the like actual statistics of who uses it, considering who's actually being arrested for it, but also who is creating companies and benefiting from it. Um, I think this pandemic is doing an interesting thing to the legality of it on a national stage. I mean, quickly we saw in almost all legal states that cannabis businesses were deemed essential,
Mhm.
because of the medical usage in states. Um, but within that, we saw Virginia pass a bill to legalize the medical use of marijuana in that state, which is not one of the states that people would have thought. There's 34 right now that have some form of legal use of cannabis. I believe 11 have rec. And so I'm not sure everyone thought that Virginia would be in that first 34 to 35. Um, but I think we're seeing a trend within the nation of just seeing more of the benefits of it and people understanding that the stereotypical like stoner or usage is not what we really think it is. um I think I have kind of an interesting perspective on whether it should be legalized nationwide or we should let states continue to make their own rules. um One thing I think is I think if there's a ruling that comes down federally, the states that have not legalized it in some form are kind of going to like stick their feet in the ground because
Yeah.
they don't want to follow something nationally or federally. Um, and so I think there is some benefit in letting like Virginia come to like the realization that they should offer their residents access to medical marijuana. My only pushback on that is there are going to be states that need to be like, kicked in the butt a little or like, told like you need to move forward with this a little quicker. But I also worry about just handing a ruling out that says, all states need to like offer their residents access to it because I worry that actually might like slow down the state by state process. Um, and then the other thing is we're seeing as states do it, they're writing very specific um, rules to their medical or recreational bills that like tailor it to their state. And so some of the earlier states that legalized first didn't write the greatest bills. So like Oregon right now is actually struggling and Washington is struggling because like there's an influx of people growing and dispensaries because there's no cap, no nothing. Like you could just start growing if you wanted. Illinois, on the other hand, there's only 5 growing plants places in the whole state. And there's 55 dispensaries in the whole state. There's a huge concentration of dispensaries in the city. And so most of rural Illinois is actually struggling with access to cannabis. And so, it, it's interesting to see how, if there's a federal ruling and bill, how that affects each state and how they kind of write their own rule. Um, and so I personally need to do kind of more research and have a broader knowledge of that. But I do think the pandemic and people's access to cannabis and people's understanding of it is becoming more broadly understood. And I think in the next 3 to 5 years, which a lot of people project, we will see reformed regulation. But as they do that, we we absolutely have to put black lives, women, the LGBTQ community, all of the people who have had a long standing history in the cannabis industry at the forefront, to ensure that this does not become another white male dominated industry, especially because it can be very expensive to get into this industry. So we're just seeing a lot of wealthier older white men who actually might not use or like believe in the plant, just kind of jump on over because of this so-called green rush.
Yeah. Oh, you're touching base on the pandemic, um, and just like different categories of people in the cannabis community. How would you say, I know you touched upon it before with the pandemic and affecting you, how would you say it's affected you with like pros and cons? I know like personally, like just being able to be home and like sit down and like work on one thing a little bit longer has helped a lot. How do you feel like it's affected you and your business?
Yeah, so I was actually in a point second semester senior year where I had a ton of stuff to do. I had my hand in like 5 things, and so it was unfortunate because the thing that I knew I was graduating from college from and doing for what I would hope to be the rest of my life was only 1/5 of my day or week or month. Um, and it was also at a pretty critical time where um so our manufacturers in China, so they're 12 hours ahead. And so to be able to communicate and create a product with them, I had to be up from like 11 to 4 a.m. and then go to school the next day. Um, and so I was incredibly burnt out. I had the team of students, but they could only give me so much because they were also in school.
Yeah.
And so, um, it was crazy all when this hit because it was just like everyone halted. Essentially, all of my 4 other priorities, like, vanished, and then the world deemed cannabis, like, essential, and I was like, "Wow." I'm allowed to now sit down and work my ass off on this company that people are saying, like, "We're gonna continue giving you access to weed," and a lot of people are just gonna stay home and smoke weed in this time of, like,
No, yeah.
no work, and, like, I'm gonna be able to, like, come out with a product, like, literally in line with a time that, like, could not be better. Um, and then on top of that, so I'm mixed race. My mom is black and my dad is white. Um, and then I am part of the LGBT community. And so then the Black Lives Matter movement happened, and you sit with those things as a mixed race person, separate from your company, and then you say, I'm running an, a, a business in a market and in an industry that disproportionately affects Black lives and people like me. And then there's only 4.3% of companies that have an owner that look like me. And then you're just like, okay, how do you deal with this as an individual? And then how do you deal with this as a business? And then it takes another level where people shift to, okay, we're realizing the impact that it's having. How can we help these people? And then there's this like rush to support Black owned businesses. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, all right, that's me again. And then Supreme Court yesterday rules that you can't discriminate based on, sexual orientation. And then you're like, all right, that applies to me again. And so it's been a lot to sit with because it's been emotional as an individual and fitting into all those categories and not even fitting into those categories, but being like, this affects me. And then running a business that kind of I mean, not kind of is affected by all of these things in a positive way. And so there was a few days where I had to think, all right, Julia, you're not like benefiting on off of this in a bad way. People are looking to support people like you, and you kind of have to go with it, and you can't think you're just like, you just got really lucky and are benefiting. You're like, no, for once people like you are being supported, are being recognized, and like we're conscious of that, and we can like uh our pre-order sales 10% are going to funds that we've chosen, because if we're going to benefit off of it, we are going to also funnel some of our resources and our reach to funds that reflect people that look like us and reflect values that look like us. So it has been this emotional roller coaster of, wow, this affects me in two ways, as an individual and as a company.
Wow, yeah, I was literally about to ask, I was like, how do you feel about being a woman in the cannabis
Yeah,
community, but also LGBTQ and then Black woman as well? Like, that's like
a
it's
lot.
intimidating. Like, trust me, I know. Um,
Yeah,
so before the pandemic, after the pandemic, like, how are you feeling getting into your own business?
yeah, so it's interesting. So, um, I I had this epiphany in last January when I came out, because I sat with, like, saying, I'm Julia, I'm a queer woman of color, because I was like, God damn, those are like the three most minority things that you could say
Yeah,
about yourself. I was like, shit, like you're saying, like that's intimidating. But then I also looked at it and I was kind of like, it's not as intimidating, because to me, that's standing out, and that's standing out in like a brilliant and bold and beautiful way. And like I'm entering an industry where, like, I might be the only one in the room, and I really hope to change that, but
yeah,
I kind of stick out like a sore thumb in a really good way. I'm just not another white man, white straight man, white straight woman walking into a room. I'm like, no, you kind of have to listen to me now, because I am that niche market of people. And so I actually saw it as like not a box that I'm inside, but a box that I quite literally took a step up onto and was like, all right, now I have a hell of a fucking platform to be like, I mean, one of the things that I don't understand with people who like ostracize a group like Black or like LGBTQ is we have a shit ton of spending power.
yeah,
While this is a like minority, I'm like, I know there are a lot of Black people out there that smoke. I know there are a lot of women out there that smoke and consume various forms of cannabis. I know there are a lot of LGBTQ people. So I'm like, we might be the minority, but when you bring that together, that rivals some of the biggest spending power groups ever. And so, I mean, and then on top of it, you've gotta like, I'm a very confident person, so I'm understand that I was able to take that thing and kind of flip it on its head. But I'm like, I know they're gonna be the people that I want supporting me because they see themselves in me, or at least I've opened my doors to every type of consumer, um, to every type of stoner and like I'm just like, I might be small, but like I'm gonna have an army behind me of people.
no, yeah, it obviously shows with the students that helped. I'm, like, listening to you, and I just did a, Pride Month in Cannabis podcast, and I'm so mad that, like, I didn't do it with you.
Yeah,
Um, Definitely future
yeah,
opportunities with that,
yeah, no, absolutely. We will stay in contact for sure.
but I'm, like, just listening to him, like, this is just so great, like, just so everything going on and, like,
Yeah,
everything I've seen on Twitter, like, it's so great to have, like, such an educated and such an opinionated, like, conversation with you about it,
yeah,
and just, like, cause I don't know, like, so many people that are in all 3 categories, and like myself, I'm just like I've only just looked at the aspect of being an Afro Latina like woman, like just trying to get the respect in a room
yeah,
full of white men. And I
yeah,
went to like a predominantly white school because I went to a private white school, and I'm
mhm,
just like reflecting on this, and it's just like so empowering. And I feel like you do have so much support
yeah,
that's gonna make it like so successful.
thank you. Yeah.
I'm so glad I'm talking to you. This is so fun.
Yeah, I mean, we can continue this conversation like off the record and not for an interview. Yeah, because I'm honestly in the same boat. I went to a predominantly white school, Duke, and then I actually came from a private, very white high school somewhere. I went for 14 years in Chicago, and then actually, my mom is black, but she is an only child, and both her parents died in her 20s.
Oh,
So my experience and relation to black people kind of ends at my mom. Um, and so, just trying to figure it out sometimes in a world as like a half black woman in that term. So I would just love to speak to you in general about life if you would like.
yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Um, when you're talking about your culture, how do you feel like your company like embraces the cultures and styles and changes? You're expanding on how you want your consumers to pretty much reflect everything that you believe in. Just like
Mhm.
expand on that.
Yeah, so I mean, company culture, we're seeing nowadays so many companies being called out for putting out diversity statements and saying they're with Black lives and, supporting them, which like they are. But a lot of people have said, okay, well, show me your management team. Who are you made up of?
Yeah,
And so, me personally, yeah, I am these identities, but that's not exhaustive. There are people past me. And so, I want to reach a consumer base that's very diverse, but I don't see how you can't do that if the people that you're working with and the people that are making the decisions for your company don't reflect that as well. And so, like, we are men and women, we are all different sexual orientations, we are different races, and like, so when we come to the table to make a decision, it's like an opinionated conversation being like, what do we believe? What do we feel? I mean, we're not coming to the table and saying, all right, what keywords do we need to make sure that we say in our statement so that like, we pass the test? Or how is this going to resonate with this group if none of us is sitting in the room? It's really just five people coming together and being like, how do we want to be treated? What do we want to hear as a consumer? um, and then we go out and say that, and then we get like a ton of positive feedback, and we're like, this is awesome because this is just like, this is how I feel as an individual. This is what Julia feels, or this is what, another person at the table feels. So our company culture truly reflects what we are saying and who we are reaching, um, because you just can't make those decisions without those people at the table.
yeah,
Um, but at the same time, we also want to help, shift the narrative because not every company in the cannabis industry works like us or functions like us or puts these as priorities. And so, um, like, we recognize that, and I think through our product, like, we've quite literally created a physical product that we also feel like kind of fits into this.
yeah.
Like, it is so physically diverse as a product. Like, I'll show you, I have one right here. So it's like
Ooh,
this big, and so the middle area fits. So like, this is a cartridge and its battery fits in there. You can fit blunts, you can fit, I mean, we fit like up to 7 small joints in here. We fit one hitters, we fit long edibles, and then the bottom, so it spins on a magnet, and then
that's so
you can
pretty.
take it off. And so you can fill it with a nug, you can fit it with a gram's worth of loose leaf, you can fit it with, so I take medicine twice a day, not cannabis related. I put it in the bottom of there so I don't have to,
Wow.
bring out an orange pill bottle. I know a lot of people who take anxiety medicine every day and they're like, yeah, I don't particularly want to like bring out my pharmacy bottle. And I'm like, and you shouldn't have to. And so like, it's fun because we're making these company decisions in a like, from a diverse set of people, but we actually also feel like our physical product, like, does the exact same thing. Like, that is we mirrored those 2 things, um, and so and then there's really no, like, market for this, like,
Yeah.
cannabis accessories are defined by, like, bongs and lighters and grinders, which were really all made for tobacco purposes, um, but there's no, like, storage or transportation, like, sector of the market, and that's what we're doing, and that's what we're trying to do. And so as we see change, we're just like, we're kind of stepping in and just saying, like, you have to see us as like a person, as a company, and as like a market and as a product. And like, you can't ignore us right now or like
Yeah.
ever. And so there's this diversity of people and like thought, but there's also this like truly diverse and like thoughtful product that we've come up with.
No, it's definitely you could tell, especially since you use it yourself, like, that's always, like, the key to, like, being able to use your own product,
Yeah.
especially when advertising and selling it.
Yep.
That's actually really cool, I didn't see that compartment in the bottom.
Yeah, no,
Um
it's funny because so much of my desire, like our product is supposed to ship out of China next week. So much like right now, I am so excited because everyone like loves the branding and love the pictures. And I'm like, that's not even like half of it. Like once you get this thing in your hands, and when I show people demos like in person, they're like, "Oh shit, I didn't know that did that." And I'm like, "No, you have to have it in your hand
No,
to be
yeah.
like, oh, this thing like it feels good, it looks good, it works for me, it's waterproof, it is odor proof. This spins on a magnet, so it's actually like a fidget spinner. So I've had a ton of friends who were like, "I don't really smoke, like, how can I use it?" And I'm like, "I see you fidget with a pen every day, just buy one and spin the
No,
magnet."
literally,
I'm
there's
like,
so many
"That's how
uses.
diverse it is. You don't even have to put weed in it, like, ever."
That's so cool. I was not expecting that. That's
I
actually
know.
really so cool. Thank you for showing me,
Of
like
course.
that. Do you have
Yeah.
any, pictures that, like, just show you, like, adjusting it in a
Yeah.
sense?
Yeah, I know we utilize, like, GIFs and stuff, which won't be helpful to you, I don't think, unless you can embed them into your website, but
Yeah, I
I
could try.
do have you can or cannot?
I think I could try, especially through the Instagram. I'll ask Christina.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can send you some of that stuff, okay, well, that's good to know. Mm, do you have any more questions?
No, that's all for today. I really do appreciate you, talking to me, and I definitely look forward to talking to you again.
Absolutely. I will send over a few options for pictures. I have like more serious ones. I have sometimes my mom doesn't like some of the other ones. She's like, you look too young. And I'm like, well, mom, I am 22. So
Yeah.
like I have one like LinkedIn businessy shot that she wanted me to include, but I have some other ones that are more youthful. But I will send along some gifts and videos and let me know as you're writing this if you need any like filler or have any more questions. I obviously could talk about this forever.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely enjoyed it.
yeah, yeah, no, I enjoyed this as well. This was great.
Thank you so much again, and have such a great day.
Of course. Thank you so much, and you as well.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Victoria.